Round 2 of the Norway Chess Tournament was a tough day for all the players. There were 5 long end games, all highly complex. But all eyes were on the encounter between Magnus Carlsen and Viswanathan Anand. This is the first time that the players have met since Carlsen won the Candidates Tournament. So it's an interesting prelude to their World Championship match, which will take place later in the year, probably November. So let's join the game. Carlsen with the white pieces after 25 moves, and Carlsen played in his customary manner in the opening. Didn't risk too much, but he's got a very safe and solid position and is trying to grind Anand down in this endgame. Typical Sicilian endgame. Let's look at the pawn structures. So black has a majority of pawns in the center of the board. So these 5 pawns connected on the king side. But you can see that because of the advance of this pawn, the e-pawn, that has weakened the d5 square here. So Carlsen has managed to establish a knight on d5. But it's not so simple because black has the 2 bishops, and this bishop on e6 in particular is kind of covering the knight, you could say. Black has this backward pawn, but it's all sort of very well, it's well protected at the moment. But still, you know, white's minor pieces do look very well placed indeed, like this bishop cutting across the board, and the knights are obviously strong. So black is a bit passive. In particular, you can see this bishop here on the back rank isn't doing too much. Basically, it's just stepped out of range of the knights, isn't achieving too much on d8. So Carlsen to play here. Could he increase the pressure? He started with rook c1. Good move, countering on the c file and possibly setting up some threats. Anand played bishop g5. Well, in principle, I like this move. Of course, it's good to activate this bishop and, you know, try to gain control of the c file. But perhaps this wasn't the best move. Carlsen quite quickly played rook to c3, but maybe this was a mistake. This might have been the moment where he missed his chance. It looks counterintuitive, but actually giving up the c file might be white's best chance here, and then playing the knight into c7. So it leaves black with active pieces. But, and maybe this is why Carlsen barely looked at the move, but it's actually very difficult for black now. So one thing is that suddenly the d-pawn is attacked by 2 pieces, but also it's very annoying for black that this bishop is also under fire. So that, you know, that will also damage black's pawn structure. Now, if black goes for activity, then first of all, let's damage the pawns and play rook takes d6. So you can see black's pawns are really dreadful here. These doubled isolated pawns. White is a pawn up. Now, black can check like crazy here, but actually it doesn't achieve too much. Now, if you check here, the rook can simply interpose. So the knight is attacked, so knight f8, I mean, this is very passive. Now a3. Okay, black does have a very active rook on the second rank, but still, you know, one feels that with an extra pawn, white should be able to control this position. And, you know, for example, here it's not possible to bring the knight into play. And I think slowly but surely white could gain control and should convert that one. So I'm not exactly sure what Carlsen missed there. Maybe, as I said, he perhaps didn't even consider giving up the file. Who knows what Anand intended in that line. I mean, that one really didn't look very nice for black. But instead of taking on c6, Carlsen played rook c3, so holding the c file. So in some ways a more natural move. And there are still threats to play one of these knights into c7. But here Anand played an excellent move. He sensed the danger and gave up this very nice bishop on e6, but this was exactly the right thing to do. He exchanged and played the rook over to c6. So black has a little bit of activity here, and this one isn't so clear. Now, if the rook manages to get in, this will be more serious. White isn't breaking through straight away, so knight b5 isn't possible. So bishop e1, and now the knight manages to just come round. And in this position, it looks very passive, but the knight defends these pawns. I think the point is it's not possible for white to go any further in this position. And although the knight is passive, actually it means that this rook stands very well on the c file. Can always threaten some kind of counterplay here. And now here's the next thing. The bishop is able to activate. It's now outside the pawn chain. So you can see a complete transformation has taken place. Bishop stands beautifully here. On d8 it wasn't doing too much, but on c5 looks much better. And now here, well, if bishop takes bishop, pawn takes, and this pawn is a target. So bishop d2 played, and that guards the second rank. So there's, if rook c2, then just a3, and black hasn't achieved anything. So bishop d2 is actually an important move. And now, well, you could say the next thing that black needs to achieve here is to activate the king. At the moment, it's very poorly placed, the side of the board. So g6 is a very good move. It's really interesting to see how Anand manages to minimize the disadvantage and slowly but surely is getting back into the game. So after this, takes, and now h5. Okay, that just kind of cramps the g-pawn a little bit. There's not a huge amount that white can achieve here. Now, black, from a positional point of view, black would very much like to play f5 to perhaps weaken this pawn. There is a problem though, that in this position, knight d4 check forks king and rook. So instead Anand has to play more carefully, f6. Well, here Carlsen just repeats moves. He wants to show who the daddy is. But okay, now he plays on. But really, actually, white has no advantage here. Now Anand played very well. King f7, just bringing the king to e6. Here's another trick. If rook c4, then rook takes d6, and that can't be taken because of the fork here. But king e6 protects the d-pawn, and now black is actually threatening to take the initiative with f5. Obviously that can't be taken because of the rook, and then perhaps we could weaken the e-pawn. And yeah, I mean, it's a slight initiative. So Carlsen has to just retrench. And black activates, well, and here black finally manages to liberate his position completely. After d5, the position really is equal. Well, the players played on right till the bitter end. Let's just see what happened. Really, neither player can achieve anything here. There are just too many pawns being exchanged. So let's see how the game finished. Now basically they swap off all the pawns. So just for a moment, white is a symbolic pawn up, but it doesn't mean anything at all. And here king b5 is going to take that pawn, and the players simplify to a draw. And in this position, finally they agree to a draw. Well, if that's a taste of the World Championship match in November, it's going to be a tough one, very tough indeed. You know, Carlsen is nominally the favourite, but I think in that game we saw how experienced Anand is at defending. Although maybe, as I showed at the start, Carlsen missed a chance to perhaps get a bigger advantage. After 2 rounds, there's only one player with 100%, and that's Sergei Karyarkin, who defeated John Ludwig Hammer today. And then behind him, Aronian is on 1.5, who defeated Nakamura today. Thanks very much for watching.